Awesome. Welcome, you wonderful educators, to EduSmart's professional development series. I'm your favorite marketing coordinator, Devanshi Mathur. For those of you who are new to our series, we bring the coolest education speakers to share with you their expertise. You get CPE certificates, you get to learn new things, and you get to hear my beautiful voice for 2 minutes every 2 weeks or so. Today's webinar is filled with very pertinent and very useful information. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our star of the evening. Lisa is known for offering challenging, creative, hands-on science educator workshops. She has over 34 years of experience in science education, with over 25 years of presenting in conference sessions and workshops for science teachers. She's worked as a classroom teacher, department chair, online certification teacher, virtual school curriculum designer, independent science consultant, and science curriculum director. Basically, anything at the crossroads of science and education, Lisa has been there and done that. So please give your warmest welcome to Lisa.
Thank you, Devanshi. So today we're going to do part 2 of our series on the STAAR redesign and addressing new assessment item types for STAAR. I know everybody, that's what's on your mind, is making sure that students are ready to take the revised STAAR test this spring. And here at EduSmart, we're doing everything we can to give you all the tools you need to do in order to do that. So what we're going to do today is first a quick review of the new STAAR item types. This is part 2, and I know maybe not everyone here came to part 1. So we're just very briefly going to go over the new STAAR item types we have for science. And then we're going to talk about where to find these item types in our resources and in our assessments. We're going to talk about scoring of the new STAAR item types. Was waiting for a little bit more information from TEA, which they have not shared, but I figured out a way to get you the information that you need. And then to talk about ways you can monitor student performance on standards in EduSmart, and then time for a question and answer. So again, we have 6 new item types that are going to be used for STAAR Science. The text entry, the hotspot, the drag and drop, the multiple select, the multi-part, and short constructed response. We have already integrated all of these types into all of our resources, and we've used 5 of the 6 types in our new assessment items. We have not added short constructed response to our internal assessments, but only because TEA has not given us a rubric other than it's worth 2 points and you can get partial credit. That's really all the information we have. And if you take any of the STAAR practice tests online, they do not grade the short constructed response. And since we have plenty of opportunities for students to do that within our resources, we're just going to hold on until we hear from TEA because we would like to grade the new assessment items as well. And we can't really do that unless we know we're mimicking what TEA is going to do on STAAR. So we talked about some of these resources last time, but just a reminder that the simple text entry we can do with our instructional module companions, with our simulations, with our interactivities, and with our new science investigation activities. Some of these also have hotspot examples, which I should have put the word explorer there too, because it has a hotspot, sorry. Interactivities, simulations, science investigation activities. The same ones can do drag and drop, and then multiple select. We have those also in readers, in addition to these other resources. And then for multi-part, we have those in our offline activities. We have some of them in instructional module companion, and we have them in our new science investigation activities. And again, we have those 5 types also in our STAAR Smart assessments. And then in our resources for short constructed response, we also have opportunities in the reader and the IMCs, journal activities, and science investigation activities. So if you're new to EduSmart, not a customer, that went by really fast. And so I spent more time talking about this also in part 1 of this series, which the webinar for that is archived online, and I think Devanshi is going to put a link to that in the chat in case that went by a little too fast. So I wanted to talk about the new, whoops, clicked the wrong spot, where you can find the new question types in our assessments. So again, we only have 5 of the 6 built into our new assessments, and we've only put them in the STAAR Smart test. We did not put them in the quizzes for a reason, and I'll wait to tell you why we didn't do that at the end. We have another new feature coming, and it was not compatible with that new feature. And so now I'm going to go through these 5 a little bit, one at a time, with examples of how they're in our resources, and then a sample of what it looks like in our new assessment item. So text entry, this comes from a simulation, and there's a button where kids have to type in a number for text entry. So we do that in a lot of our resources that I mentioned earlier. And here's a sample of a question that would be a text entry in the assessment. They have to type in a word. I'll talk more about how this is going to be scored when we get to the scoring part of this, but just to show you what it's going to look like. We also have hotspots. This is one of our new science investigation activities where students have to click on a certain part of the screen in order to move forward. That's a hotspot. We also have some questions that are hotspot in there. Here's an assessment item that has a hotspot. A hotspot can have 1, 2, or more correct answers. This one just has 1, but we have some with multiple correct answers. Drag and drop in our resources. This is from our Word Explorer, where students drag the words from the top down to the sentence at the bottom. So that's the practice they can get all along the way. And then our drag and drop in assessments is not quite as colorful because we want to make it look like the STAAR practice tests that have been released. And so you can see there's an item bank, and the students drag the correct word at the top of each column, and they have more choices than our correct answers to make it a little more rigorous. Multiple select in our resources. This is an example, again, from our Word Explorer, where there's more than one correct answer. And here's an example of a multiple select in our STAAR Smart assessment. So it says here, select 2 correct answers. So they have to select 2 answers before they can proceed. And they cannot pick more than 2 answers, is the way this is built. If it says select 2, they have to pick 2. It'll remind them if they only chose 1. And if they try to click on a third one, it will not take the answer, just to make sure they're reading the directions. And then multi-part, this is from the printed lab that goes along with the simulation in biology, where it just has a 2-part question. And then this is an example of one from the assessments. It's not going to look side by side like this. It's going to be stacked on top of each other, but I couldn't get it all onto one PowerPoint slide without making it so small you can't read what's going on. But generally, there's a question that they have to answer, look at some evidence, answer, pick a choice, and then they have to choose something, a statement that best supports their answer to part A, or it may ask for which one is evidence that supports the answer in part A, but that's how the multi-part works. Short constructed response, again, we have these in our resources. So this is an example from a grade 5 reader where this is also a little bit difficult. It can't be auto-graded, which is why we haven't put it in our assessment yet. But what we do is provide the teacher with a sample correct passage, and the teacher has to evaluate these all on their own. And as soon as we get information about how these will be graded on STAAR, what kind of rubric they're going to use, we will try to follow and do the same thing that they do. Here's a constructed response in EduSmart resources where they have to drag and drop to link cause and effect. I wanted to use this as an example too, because we're already building in those recurring themes and concepts to things. So they are making sentences, but they're dragging and dropping to do it in this resource. So just as a reminder about the types of assessments that we have in EduSmart for you to track their learning, that we have a lot of opportunities for formative assessment. The readers have 5 questions built in. Student reviews have 3 questions built in. Interactivities have any number of things that students have to do to show they understand the content. Simulations with the CER, a traditional lab format, of course, are formative assessments, as are the word explorers and our new science investigation activities. And we have some of these online, starting in 3rd grade all the way up through biology. For summative assessments, we have quizzes that are available to everyone. K2, we have either a 4 or 5 question quiz. Kindergarten is 4, 1st and 2nd are 5 questions, and that should say 3 through 8. It has 10 question quiz for each standard. We also have quizzes in biology, but the ones I highlighted are colored blue here. These are part of our STAAR Smart add-on that you have to be a customer that has that capability. And you can access some STAAR formatted unit tests, reporting category tests, but these all have the new item types and the same percentage that they would show up on a STAAR exam. So I'm gonna escape the PowerPoint here because I wanted to show you what they look like online, because we were trying to look and make it look like the practice STAAR test does. So we have a timer on this, so that's why I put pause so that I could hold it where I wanted you to see it. And so you can see here that this is an example of a multiple select, that you have to select 2 responses. It has a number down here. It will let them pick any 2 answers. If they try to pick 3, you can see it will not let them pick 3. Can they unselect it and change their mind? Yes. Okay. I also wanted to show you that we have the same tools, or many of the same tools that are on that STAAR practice test. You can review your answers, but I really wanted to look at these accessibility options, that if students don't do well with a white background and black text, that they can choose other options. I understand that this is helpful for kids who are dyslexic. Can also change the font size, and they can choose to zoom in. There are directions on how to zoom in and make the images bigger on the test, or anything that's on there bigger. Also have a calculator that they can use. This is a 5th grade test, so it's just a simple calculator for this one. So I just wanted to show you what that looked like. This is a multiple select. So here's another 5th grade question that's a text entry. And so they just type a word into this box, and that's all they have to do for this one. Again, they can use the same tools. They can put a flag on this one to remind them to come back and check. We talked last time about all of these tools on the TEA version, and so I wanted to let you know we've incorporated those into this one as well. Then this one has 3 correct answers, so I just wanted to show you that sometimes it's not always 2, it might be 3, because we saw those same types of questions on the practice STAAR test. And this is an example of a multi-part. Because I went through and tested this, it won't let me go back and unselect, so I just put it on the first one. That doesn't mean I picked that as the correct answer. But you select an answer for part A, and then you have to pick which statement supports that answer in part B. So that's an example of a multi-part question. And then lastly, to show you one that is a hotspot. Which 2 cities will have wind, rain, or cold weather? And so you can click on as many as you would like. It doesn't give them this hotspot. You don't tell them how many answer choices that there are. So I wanted to show you this live so you could see our tools and sort of how it looks. We wanted it to mimic the navigation the best we could as the practice STAAR exam. So now I'll go back to my PowerPoint. And now we're going to add some new information because they've released the blueprints. I think they came out just before the last one, but I hadn't seen it yet. And so this is information that's going to be useful for you, and you may want to share with people on your team at school, because the total number of questions is different. Like we used to have 50 for biology, but then there were only 50 points and now there are 53. And that's because some of the questions have 2 points. So there's the number of questions, but because some of them have multiple parts or multiple correct answers, it means the total number of points is not the same as the other test either. And so we looked at this ratio. So in our full length grade 5 practice test, we have 7 2-point questions. And our full length 8th grade, we're going to have 8 questions. We're still building this. And the same in the biology, because that's what we saw looking at this blueprint. Now our unit tests only have 5 questions. And so what we did there is just put at least 1 question of each new item type in a unit test. Reporting category tests, they have 20 questions. And I can't remember offhand, but we used the math there to determine how many of those should be the new item types, how many should be 1 point, and how many should be 2 points. And the same for the reporting, I said reporting category, unit test, reporting category test. And so when you talk about how is this going to be graded, this is the information that we got from TEA, that basically some questions can be worth 2 points with the possibility of receiving 1 point. But we didn't get any information about what do you have to do to get the 1 point versus the 2 point. So what I did is I went through the test and I tested with 1 correct and 1 incorrect, 2 incorrect, just to make sure I understood how this worked. Well, so this is worth 2 questions. There are 2 correct answers. This one's pretty easy, but the other ones were not as intuitive. So if you get 1 correct answer, you get 1 point. If you get them both right, you get 2. If you get none of them right, you get 0. The multiple select's pretty easy to understand how that's going to be scored. Again, it won't let the student pick more than 2 correct answers. And so we did that on our STAAR Smart assessments as well. So another multiple select 2, it works the same way. I just used every question from that 5th grade test here, that you get 1 point if you get half of it correct. So this one, there were multiple ways you could fill in this drag and drop. And so what I just did is I dragged 1 word and I filled it in for all of them. And if you have 2 correct answers out of 5, you get 0 points. Okay. If you get 3 or 4 correct answers, you get 1 point. So what this is saying, this is out of 5. If you don't get at least 50% of the question correct, you get 0 points. So 2 out of 5 is not 50%, so you get a 0. 3 or 4 out of 5 is greater than 50, but less than 100, so you get the 1 point. And of course, if you get them all correct, you get all 2 points. So I'm going to pause here just in case someone has a question.
We don't have any questions on this specific topic yet. Very good.
Okay. This one has 4 drag and drop. So this one's a little bit, this one, even though if you got 50%, if you got 2 correct and 2 incorrect, you still got 0 points. If you get 3 correct and 1 incorrect, you got 1 point. And then if you got all 4 correct, then you got both of the points. So this one didn't fit the numerical percentages that we saw in a lot of the other ones, that to get partial credit, you had to get 3 out of the 4 correct. And so this one I decided for the text entry, which was worth 1 point. What happens if you misspell the word? What does it do? And so you can see I left the letter I out of friction, and when it graded my test, it gave me 0 points. So this is concerning because not all of our 5th grade students are the best typists or the best spellers. So I don't know what to do to tell you how to get ready for this, but
Sorry, Lisa, can I hop in there for a second?
yeah, absolutely.
I work at the service center, so this is
Oh, okay.
what I do all the time. So from what I have heard from TEA is they are going to come up with lots of combinations for this exact reason, that
Okay.
if it could phonetically be able to be figured out, then it will be accepted. If the word is incorrect, then it would be marked wrong.
Okay.
So just FYI, when they put out the, they're going to collect information for teachers to come up with these rubrics and these responses. Y'all want to be on those committees to give your 2 cents, but that is the latest information we have heard from TEA. Doesn't mean it won't change, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Right. You've got a more direct line to them than I do, so please. Thank you for jumping in. Right now on the practice test, if you misspell it, it will mark it incorrect. So on our end in EduSmart, we are doing the same thing that you're talking about TEA is going to do. We're leaving letters out or we're spelling it phonetically so that there are multiple ways that they can get the correct answer. Because we don't want this to happen internally, that they miss it because they made a typo. So thank you. All right, so this is another text entry where you have to put in letters, and there's 2 boxes. And since this is worth 1 point, the only way to get the 1 point is to get the entire question correct. And so to test this, I put in 1 correct and 1 incorrect, and it did not give me any points. So this one makes sense. This hotspot is worth 2 points. This was a little bit different. You can only select 1 incorrect answer. There's no way to test this one with 2 incorrect answers, just because of the nature of the question. But 1 incorrect answers with 3 correct did give a 1 point for this question when the question was worth a total of 2. So this may be different with different hotspots. There just wasn't another way to test this particular question. This one, there were 2 correct answers. And so to get the 2 points, you had to get both of those correct. So I tested, just to be sure, 1 correct and 1 incorrect, and it gave me half credit of the 1 point for this question. For the multi-part, the whole multi-part question is worth 2 points. Part A is worth 1 point, part B is worth 1 point. But if you answer incorrectly for A, you do not get any points for part B. You have to answer correct on part A to get any credit at all. And if you do part A correct and part B incorrect, you can get that partial 1 point. So this one's a little bit easier to understand. I guess they're trying to say if they clicked on something by guessing, that they want to make sure that they're matching these 2 together. And so that's why you have to have part A correct to get any credit at all. Here's another multi-part. It worked the same way. Again, it's worth 2 points. You have to have part A correct in order to get credit for part B, even if you put part B as the correct answer. And just to remind you that if you're an EduSmart customer, that we have ways for you to monitor student performance all year long, both on any assessment that you do. As long as you do it within our platform, we track that data. And so you can drill down to what we call a student level progress monitoring report. This is not new, but it hasn't been around a long time. So I think people who've been a long time customer may not remember or didn't pay attention to how to get to this information. This sample data that I pulled up was for a STAAR practice test. And so that's why it has some 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade peaks on here. And if they got 50% or 100%, it could be there was 1 question. This one, maybe there were 2 questions, but they got 1 of them correct. So that's why we have numbers like this. all the data together. So how you find this within EduSmart is you go to your My Groups, then you have to click on the little graph button, and it pulls up all of these reports that you can access. And the progress monitoring report is the one here on the end, and you just click on it. And then this page comes up. You have to click which test you want to do. So that's a quiz or a STAAR Smart test. And then within that, you have to pick unit test, reporting category, or STAAR practice test. And then lastly, you also have to hit the submit button or it won't populate it with data. So I tried to make it as simple as possible here. We also have user guides, and I know we have a video in the help section to tell you how to access this data. We also have item analysis for our STAAR practice test. We are going to have to redo this for the new STAAR item types, and we're waiting to see how this looks from TEA before we do it. So until then, we're not sure how we're going to do this for our new test items, but you'll be able to track progress by standard with the other report. We have a new feature coming soon called QuizMark that basically is like a little Kahoot game where the teacher can set this up, give a code to the class, the students enter their names, the teacher will be in charge of the rules about what they use for first and last names. We have, I think, 50 plus different avatars, and students can only select one, and when they select it, it goes away. So it keeps it a little bit, it encourages kids to log in quickly so they can grab the avatar they want, was sort of the thinking behind that. And so that's coming soon. I know we're doing testing with certain districts. I'm not sure which one, because I'm not on that team. I'm on the content team instead of the development team. But just remind you, we have resources that can help you get your kids ready for the new STAAR, and reminding you that we are going to be at CAS. We have a room where we're going to be in there all day, Thursday, Friday, half the day, Saturday. And these are some of the sessions we're going to do at CAS. So if you're going to be there, we're going to be in Cortez Room B. And these are some of the sessions that we're going to do. Some of them have been done as a webinar, but haven't been open to people coming in person. So we're going to repeat them, like this best of both worlds. The engineering design is a brand new one. EduSmart Academy is going to tell you about some of the new things we have coming on. We have some outside speakers coming to talk about some of these other ones, but we tried to get a broad range of different topics, and hope you can stop by for one of our sessions. But please be sure to at least come by our booth in the exhibit hall. And now I'm going to open up for questions. I see that there's a lot of stuff in the chat, but I haven't been able to see it, so I'm going to let Devanshi.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Before I go into our Q&A session, I want to thank you, Lisa, for taking the time for prepping this webinar for us. I know that you had gone and taken that practice test most probably a bajillion times by now in order to find out all the information that you have. So thank you for that. So starting our Q&A, so just pointing out what's been happening in our chat. Lisa Cisneros, not EduSmart Lisa. Lisa had shared the TEA scoring rubrics that were released on Friday in the chat. So they're up in our chat for you.
Okay.
Amanda's
I finished my PowerPoint on Friday, so of course they released them after that. So.
I think the TEA waits for you, Lisa, to finish your PowerPoint, and it's like, now, we will release this now.
All righty.
Our next question comes from Annabelle. So this was when you were talking about the EduSmart resources. Is this available in Spanish?
For K-5, everything we have is available in Spanish. Some of the newer things like the science investigation activities, they're new, and so we're still in the process of moving those into Spanish. We don't just like use Google Translate on that. We make sure that native speakers who also teach science and elementary, so we do like a trans adaptation, and then getting the person who does the audio with someone different to make sure the enunciation and all that is good. It takes a little bit of time since none of us are native Spanish speakers. We pull in outside experts for that, and we have to work on their timeline. So a few of the brand new things are not available in Spanish, but everything else is available in Spanish. In middle school, our readers are in Spanish. And that's all we have site-wide in Spanish for middle school.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Lisa. What is the thought behind having text entry for 5th when it's only tested in 8th and EOC?
The last time I looked at the text entry, they had some in the Spanish practice. I mean, they had some in the practice test. So that's why we put them. I showed you a text entry in the 5th grade test, practice test. Some of the first information I looked at from TEA, it did not have it in 5th grade, but when I went back and looked at other resources, it was there. So I'm happy to clarify that, but that's why we put it in there, is because we did have some information from TEA that it was in there. Because I remember going back and changing the slide and having to put that back in 5th grade, where I didn't have it. Maybe, I don't remember, it was right before the last session or before another session I did on this. But I remember I went back to check, to double check, and it showed text entry for grade 5. And like I said, it's in the practice test. So.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Rachel. I presume teachers are not doing the scoring for these constructed responses.
For the constructed responses within EduSmart, we do have sample answers for all of them. Sometimes the teacher has to go and make the comparison of the student one with the sample one, but we don't expect the teacher to come up with a correct, complete answer for every one of those in EduSmart. There is, the teacher materials will have a correct answer, but they're not auto-graded. So.
Our next question comes from Rachel. Can we download a copy of this seminar to review with?
You don't need to download it because Devanshi is going to send you the slide deck next week. And a copy of the webinar will be available online. So I don't know the timeline for getting that done, other than it's sometime next week.
And I can step it there. So for all of you who have registered for this webinar, you'll receive an email next week around before Wednesday with a copy of this webinar, how to get your CPE attendance certificates, and a copy of Lisa's slide deck. You can also follow our YouTube page, and as soon as the video will be ready, it will be posted on YouTube before it gets emailed out. So you can look for it there.
But all of our past webinars are posted on our website.
Yes. Our next question comes from Annabelle. When will these be available for biology?
The STAAR items, I'm assuming that's the question. STAAR questions are the new item type questions will be in the STAAR biology, the unit tests and the full length practice test, hopefully by November 1st. All the questions have been written. It's just a matter of, we are using a new system to generate that into our LMS. And so it's a multi-step process. We're going through quality checks just to make sure it doesn't glitch. By the time you assign it to a student, we don't want it to have something wrong with it. So we've been busy writing the questions, and like I said, the target date is November 1st.
Annabelle clarified saying everything, hotspot and everything else, and then did okay.
Okay, yeah.
We do have a few more minutes left for any questions. For those of you who submitted questions, if you'd like to unmute and ask for clarification if you need so, please feel free to do right now. Like I said, otherwise, you have Lisa's contact information in front of you right now, but you will be receiving an email from me next week. So feel free to respond to that if you have any questions or need any clarification. I will make sure your question gets to the right spot. So as we review, oh, go ahead, Lisa.
That's okay. It was just a recap of what we did, and then this was my last slide. Wanted to leave it up. So lots of people here that can help you. I'm just in charge of curriculum, but that encompasses the content of these questions. So I've been involved with that. So
awesome. Well, with that, it doesn't seem like we have any new questions coming in. I want to thank Lisa again for taking the time, for putting in all this research and finding this information and putting it together for us. There's a lot of messages coming in saying thank you, that this information has been crucial information, and it's been very helpful for teachers to get ready. Lots of thank yous coming in for you, Lisa. So to voice them all, thank you so much.
Yeah. Just remember, we have multiple opportunities to practice these new item types before you get to a STAAR Smart assessment. If they're not doing this all year long, they need more than just a practice test to get ready for the STAAR. So use those resources that have all of these already built in.
Wonderful. And then lastly, I want to thank all of you all for joining us today. I know that after a long day of work, coming in, sitting down for another webinar, it takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of effort. And I want to say thank you to you all for joining us today and making me feel very loved and sensing community here tonight. So I wanted to thank you all for that. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us off. So we will see you for our next webinar in 2 weeks. I'll see you all then. Otherwise, have a great evening, everybody.